Hi, this is Amy with the Hag Reads. I am back today with another vlog. I don't know why I say that. I gotta figure out something else to say. What else would I be here for? I'm making a daily vlog. Oh my gosh, I'm retarded. Alright, so today is just kind of a ramble session. I want to go over, I realize it's late in September. We're looking at, I think today is the 14th. We're looking at the middle of the month, and I never talked about how many books I read last month, and I normally do that right at the beginning of the month really quick. Let's see here. See if I can make this happen. Goodness gracious. I am just a hot mess. I'm going in the wrong direction. Alright. Let me put my glasses on because I can't read my own handwriting. I think I'd write bigger so I could read my own handwriting. The thing, what is going on with my glasses? You know, I sprayed some, I was doing some mixed media art, and I sprayed some sealer on some colors that were water soluble, so I could layer something over it, and I think some of the spray got on my glasses. I need to find something to clean that off with better without scratching them. They're just readers. I could buy a new pair, but yeah, perpetually broke. I try to make things last as long as they possibly can. My hair is really puffy today. I have no concentration. I'm so sorry. All right, so we're talking about August. I read 39 books in August, and the breakdown of it, don't get excited, do not get excited. I read 17 adult fiction books, 9 young adult books, and 13 children's books. So, not actually all that impressive. So in terms of this year, so that is, and when I do these, what I'm tracking is I set a goal in 2011, in December of 2000. I didn't even wait until January of 2012. I started in December of 2011 when I read exactly 4 books. With a goal of reading 1,000 books. You know, I kept seeing it probably for 5 or 10 years. You know, there's that book floating around, 1,001 books to read before you die, and that in your lifetime, the average reader should read about 1,000 books. So this is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is the 7th year. In December, it will be this. You know, I will have completed 6 full years, I guess. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, because you can't say like the whole first half of 2017 doesn't really count. It's only when I get to September and I'll have finished a full 6 years. I read 39 books this month. My previous total was 593 for all 6 years. That put me at a total of 633 books toward my goal of 1,000. And once I reach 1,000, if I'm not, you know, on my deathbed, which I may well be, who knows. I've read an exceptional number of books this year, but the average is between 52 and 100 books a year is really where my average is. I've had years with much less. So I can go through it real quick. 2011, I read 4. 2012, I read 73. 2013, I read 112. 2014, I read 62. 2015, I read 53. And then in 2016, I read 82. And I read most of those in the last 3 months of the year. For the whole first part of that, because I was still attending university, I read almost no books at all, including even academic books, because typically you don't finish those. My 2000 total to date is 249 books for the year as of August 31st. The breakdown for the month for the year of 2017 is 104 adult fiction books, only 14 nonfiction books for adult. And that's sad to me. I really wanted it to be much higher than that. And I'm going to try and work on that in the last 3 months of the year. YA 45 and children's fiction 86. Now that's largely owing to that I'm reading a number of children's series. I finished the Little House series. I'm about to finish up the Goosebumps series. I am working on the Nancy Drew and Hardy Boys series. What else did I finished several other specifically children's book series. So that's largely where that 86 comes from. And then I keep track of pages too, because I somewhere around there, it was a 1,000,000 page goal, and that was floating around when I was on 43 things. So since I started this in December of 2011, I have read 194,098 pages. For just 2017, just shy of 70,000, 69,237. So that is my totals for August and as of August 2017 in my overall goal. And the other thing I thought I might ramble on is I caught a podcast by Steve Donahue that he was inspired to make based on something by Paperback Junkie. And I will put those in the down bar. They're both good videos. Both have good channels. If you have never been there, I know all 21 of you and the 1 to 5 who actually watch my videos. If you haven't gone over and checked them out, they're really good channels. Paperback Junkie's pretty new, but Steve Donahue's been around for a while. And I think with Steve Donahue, it's a you love him or you hate him kind of thing. And I'm amused by his videos, and on almost every video of his I watch. His are largely hauls because he's a professional reviewer, but on almost every video I watch, there are between 1 and 5 books, and sometimes more, that I wind up putting on my Goodreads wish list, and it is now ginormous, largely thanks to Steve. Although I do get books that I want to read from everybody that I watch, and that's the reason I watch them, because I'm exposed to a wide variety of things, and I may not get to whatever it is that you have recommended or talked about on your channel, but it's on my list and I actively work on it. I work on it from the first page. I try to read the oldest things first, but I try also to balance that. So I'll play off the two ends and working towards the middle. And I'm not kidding. It's a ginormous. I'm embarrassed to even tell you how much. My Goodreads account is down in the down bar. If you want to see how ridiculously high it is, be my guest, but I'm not going to talk about that anymore. So it's really the thing that they were talking about was libraries versus used books versus pirating, and how is it that getting a book from the library or from a used bookstore, how is that different from stealing an ebook from a site that offers, that somebody has changed the formatting so that you can download an ebook for free. And I never have. I also don't pirate DVDs. I don't, if I'm going to get it, I'll pay for it, and I'll buy it from Amazon or, a brick and mortar store. But I also utilize libraries heavily, and I patronize used bookstores and charity shops. And I don't see libraries or used bookstores as theft. Although I know that there are a number of people on BookTube and in the blogosphere who view getting things from the library and secondhand as equivalent to pirating ebooks, because you're taking money or keeping money away from publishers and authors. The thing is, yes, that is absolutely true. However, Paperback Librarian made some interesting points about that I never knew about how purchasing library books works, and specifically digital books. I just never really thought about it. So if you haven't watched that video, I would highly recommend it. So essentially, and this is my gist on what happens, you can go watch his video as well. The library licenses the book for so many views, so many checkouts. So let's say they buy X popular book, or any book really, and they pay, you know, $140 or $160 for the book, and they can check it out 50 times, and once it's reached 50 checkouts, it shuts down and nobody can access it, and they have to buy another license for more checkouts. And that seems like a very expensive deal for libraries. I think about how many digital books my library has, and this does explain why I've had 3 books that are relatively new that have been on my wish list for the better part of a year, and I'm in the same spot. Like, I'm not moving closer to getting the book itself. My guess is it's not in the library's budget for this, you know, maybe they can't do anything till next year. Maybe nothing will ever be done. And that's a little disconcerting, because I just assumed once they bought the license for the book, maybe they were limited on how many times a month it could be checked out. But I didn't assume that that expired for them, and that they would have to lay out more money for people to do that. Because if they buy a physical book, as long as they have it in the library, it can be checked out over and over and over and over. So it's not limited to 50 and then they have to burn the book and buy a new one. That doesn't really seem fair. You know, and I learned that libraries pay more for their books than you do for the suggested manufacturer retail price, a lot more. And I've never looked into that. I've never thought about it. I've never asked a librarian that. I never really thought about library acquisitions, other than I know our library is sometimes slow about it, and now I understand a little better. But because the library pays more for their stuff, I don't feel bad patronizing them. The publisher's getting more out of a library at the initial sale than they would for anybody else buying the book. And what the publisher and the author gain from that is, if I read the book from the library, I'm going to determine whether or not I want to buy myself a copy, because I live on a limited budget, and I only buy books that I would use for reference, or that I would for sure read again, or that I would have as part of my personal library, because I think people who are in my life might read it, or because, well, I have reasons why I'm developing a personal library that I don't want to get into here. But there's a reason why I would have it in my library, because I think it's useful in terms of being part of a library. Now, with used books, yes, that definitely takes from the publisher and the author, for sure. Do I have a problem with it? No. Publishers make a lot of money. I don't think I finished with libraries. So, first, I'm going to determine if I want to buy that book for myself or not. And with a lot of the stuff I check out from the library, whether it's movies or books, no, I wouldn't buy them for myself. Although, I have watched movies from the library that I have then gone out and bought. And then the second prong of that is, I determine whether or not I would recommend that book to somebody or not. And before I was on BookTube, well, and now, even though I'm on BookTube, 21 subscribers and 1 to 5 people watching, I'm probably getting close to the same exposure as if I tell somebody, oh my God, I love this book, and I think you might love it too. When I post a video on here, or when I tell a friend, that book is awesome, or I didn't like that book very much, but I think you would, or if you like such and such, I think you would like this. So I'm going to recommend it to others, a book that I may probably excuse me. Oh, I ate some cucumbers before this and they're kind of repeating. A book that I probably would not have bought because I'm extremely limited on my funding. I can't go out and buy every book that strikes my fancy. And believe me, a lot of books strike my fancy. But only a small percentage of those would I want to own and recommend to others, good or bad. So with the library, you're getting, I may go out and buy it after that, I may very well go out and recommend it to others. You're getting some kind of exposure in the larger world from me because I got this book from the library, because I'm going to at least say I read it to, I have enough friends that ask me, hey, what have you read lately? And I'm going to at least say, oh my gosh, I read, 10 books, or I read 5 books since the last time I saw you, and this one really stood out, or I think you would like this one, or, that sort of thing. So I'm talking about them because I checked them out from the library, and I enjoyed or didn't enjoy, or I sort of liked, whatever it is. And it kind of works the same way with used books. So not in terms of, the used bookstore did not pay the publisher or the author anything to acquire that book. Now, here's what I'm thinking. If used bookstores were not around, what would happen to all of those books? And furthermore, used book sales in used bookstores on the internet, and let's just go with used bookstores. Because the internet's a relatively new thing. Used bookstores have been around as long as there have been books. So, I don't know why authors and publishers would whine about that, or why people would be on their blogs beating their drums and tooting their horns about how bad people are for going to a used bookstore when they have been around literally as long as books, I'm sure. Or at least shortly thereafter, when the printing press became a thing, and books were more widely available to the general public, and more people were literate. So what would people do with all of the books? Let's say you own 1,000 books and you are moving into a smaller house and you can't fit them all. What are you supposed to do with those books? If according to these people, you can't give them away, you can't sell them to a used bookstore, you can't, build a house with them. You have to just basically keep these books forever, because you can't benefit from them in any way financially, because nothing is going to the publisher or the author. Well, they've already been paid for that book. It doesn't matter. And when I go into a used bookstore, I'll be honest, I rarely have an agenda. I know there are people that go in with lists of books they're looking for, and they are specifically not looking to pay full price for a new book. But most of the people I see, and they're looking for back catalog of books that may not be in print anymore. So you have that aspect. What if a book's not in print anymore? Is it okay then for me to go out and buy it? What if a book is $40 and I can get it for $20 in a used bookstore, and my monthly income is only $1,000? Am I allowed to do it then? It's awfully elitist to say that I have to purchase at full price every book I ever want. And what about buying it for Amazon, where the book sells for less than the suggested manufacturer's retail price? So should I only be buying it from the publisher? Is that how this works? I support used bookstores because you are supporting somebody who bought the book that somebody didn't want, whether it came from an estate sale, whether it came from somebody's house and they were just purging because they need more space on their shelves for new books they want to buy, or you just read a book and you were like, I will never read this book again. Why would I keep it on my bookshelf? I think that it's great that there's a secondhand market. I think that it's a shame. I'm not so concerned about the publishers because I think that they make out okay. But it's a shame that the authors don't get a small cut of that. And I don't think that maybe should even come from used booksellers. I've often wished that there were some kind of website or clearinghouse where you could go and the author had a virtual tip jar. And if I bought a book for 50 cents or 25 cents or $5, I could donate to them an amount that, so that they get a little something out of it. Or that there were published P.O. boxes where I could, if over the course of the year I bought 5 books by an author, maybe I could send them a $10 money order. I wouldn't mind. One way that I did think is I know that some authors, maybe not super huge famous authors, have Patreon accounts. So if you're buying used books and you have, 3 or 4 specific authors that you typically buy regularly, maybe you could go kick them $1 a month or $2 a month. And that's a way to give back, so that nothing's being taken out of the author's pocket. Aside from that, I've never ever thought that there's anything wrong with the secondhand market, because there's a secondhand market for everything. Cars. Who goes around bemoaning the fact that if a used car sells, somebody's taking money out of the pocket of the car manufacturer, and maybe thus the designer of the car, who's the equivalent of the writer? Nobody talks about cars like that, or toasters. And what would you do with all the cars if everybody had to buy a new car? I just think it's an elitist way of looking at something. And I'm not saying anybody's a shitty person for thinking that way. It is important that publishers and authors get their due, which is why I would never pirate a DVD or an ebook, because, however broke I am, or music, whatever the case is, not only I'm not necessarily afraid that it's illegal, although that should probably be a concern. What's the point of doing that? There are other venues that you can go to the library. You can get a used book. For most books, I would never read again. So what would be the point of buying a pirate, or of getting a pirated ebook? That may or may not have problems with it. I don't know. It never occurred to me that I could or should go the illegal route when there are enough secondhand, and I can get a lot of things from the library for free, and occasionally I can borrow from friends, but I just don't see anything wrong with that. I do think pirating ebooks is kind of a shitty thing. But, wherever there's a market for something digital, music, movies, or books, there's going to be people that take advantage of that, and what are you going to do? Paperback Junkie kind of broke it down into people like me who might go and look for that because they have no other way to get a book, like you have no money in your budget period for books ever. Maybe somebody who was looking on a pirated site and came across a book that they liked, and got it just because they ran across it. And then somebody who could afford to go out and buy a book new, but is just kind of a jackass and doesn't. Instead of putting the money that he has available to buy a book, deliberately goes and gets it from a pirated site. And even, I don't know if it was Steve or Paperback Junkie who made the point of even in not supporting pirating of any type of media, you're still kind of getting the same exposure. And probably people who pirate are a small percentage. They're probably not true readers in the sense that the booktube community is committed readers, because I want to own the books I love. I want to touch a physical copy, and I don't want to risk getting arrested because I like reading books. We haven't quite got there yet with our government. So, yeah, I totally support libraries. And when I can afford to buy new, I totally do. I still buy new books. Just I can't afford them very often. And so, yes, I totally use books, libraries. And used books specifically, I really like that market for books that are out of print. Because sometimes I run across, especially like 80s cheesy horror books, or older versions of Penguin Classics that, they're not, that particular edition is no longer in print, and maybe you really liked that kind of edition. Illustrated books, like I've bought 2 copies of an illustrated Dracula novels, and that is Steve Donahue's fault. He had them on one of his bookshelf tours, and I had to own them. But they're not available for sale new. They're only available used. That's the only way I could get it. And so I did. I shelled out money. Not a lot either for either one of them. And those will be in a haul coming up soon. Beautiful editions, both of them. Those are just kind of my thoughts on that. I'm always going to support libraries. I think they are amazing. I hope that they don't wind up getting shut down altogether, because I think that's kind of where the country is going. Anything that's available for free and that's funded by the state or the government is being scrutinized now more than ever, I think. And I think that's a shame. Specifically, too, not just for old people like me who want to read books for free and determine what I want to buy, and also because I can't really afford to buy everything that I want to read. There's a lot of underprivileged children that are... Oh my gosh, that scared the crap out of me. Hold on one second. Sorry, my mailman just buds the door and puts packages right on the porch. Scared me half to death. So I was talking about, and maybe underprivileged children isn't the right word, but there are certainly a lot of families out there in America with small children who may not have a lot of children's books in their home. And children's board books are expensive. Children's not in terms of adult books, but if you think about how voraciously children can read, or that you need to read to them, that can be very expensive, especially if you are living paycheck to paycheck. And I think for families like that, the library is an amazing resource. And it would be a shame to see it go away. They have so many amazing programs. I can't tell you the amount of time that my biological son and my transgender son spent in our library. Has a thing called the Noasis, which is just for teens. It has, it's walled off from the rest of the library. It has a glass wall and a door, and so it's only for teens. It's a safe place for them to go after school. It's furnished with computers. There's dedicated librarians who are there for after-school help with homework, for helping kids, navigate the internet and stuff. It's an incredible resource. And then our library has, a separate children's section and then an adult section. So from that perspective, I would hate to see libraries go away, because I think that they really serve that portion of the population very well. And then, people are checking books out. You've got families checking books out. So maybe this family who's not earning enough to buy their own books talks to a mother who can afford to buy books and says, oh my gosh, we checked out from the library this really great book. My kids love it. And that mom goes out and buys the book, and she tells another mom, accessing something for free does not necessarily mean that ultimately the publisher or the author don't benefit from it, because you talk about the things you buy with your friends. For vlog channels and booktube channels, we talk about the books that we acquire, and that gives exposure for the publisher and the author to an audience that they might not otherwise have reached. Because, for example, me, I don't get periodicals in my house. I read most of my, I look up articles online and stuff. I don't have TV in my house. I do not have cable. I watch the news infrequently because it's depressing. So I don't get, and I see ads on YouTube and, other places similar, but I don't get the exposure to advertising that a lot of people do. I just also don't own a car, so I don't see billboards a whole lot. I don't get exposure to the radio because I'm not in a car listening to the radio on my way to and from work. So, BookTube gives me exposure to a lot of authors and books that I would never hear about otherwise. I wouldn't see them necessarily browsing in my library. I don't spend a lot of time going to bookstores because there just really aren't that many here where I live. And as much as I might browse Amazon, I don't spend hours and hours a day doing that, but I do spend hours and hours a week watching BookTube videos. And I assume everybody on here is the same. So we're all getting exposed to, maybe I should stop saying exposed. We are all getting introduced to a new and different books than we would ever be introduced to in our everyday lives if we were just talking to our friends and our coworkers and so on. So I think that it's kind of a moot point. Libraries and used bookstores serve a certain purpose. There's always going to be a secondhand market for books, whether it's from somebody has passed and their estate is culling through books and getting rid of them, or whether it's just, soccer mom clearing out her romance novels so that she can buy more romance novels. Whatever the case, it's providing an outlet for something that what else would you do with it? Burn them, throw them away, increase the landfills? I just think that it's silly to think we could get along without used bookstores given our proclivity for turning over books. You don't keep a book in your house that you didn't like or that you'd never read again. I mean, not for any great length of time, I wouldn't think. So I think I've reached the end of my rant. And since I have a box here, this is not books, but I'm excited about what's in here. I'll open this up just because it came while I was making this video. We used to go down to our local meaning close to us, Big Lots, and that's where we buy things like toilet paper and toothbrushes and cleaners and stuff because they have good prices and we're broke a lot. But it's also where we were buying our scented candles because they had, decently scented candles, and I think that's probably packing peanuts everywhere. And there's weird green ones that I don't like. So they closed the one that's closest to us, and the next one is way up north, more than 10 miles. So to buy something like toilet paper, I would have to buy a $4 bus pass and go 10 or 15 miles up Scottsdale Road to the next closest one. And it's kind of the same no matter what direction I go, and actually getting farther and farther away. I don't typically patronize Walmart or Target. So I had to find a new place to get scented candles because I do burn them quite often. As part of my altar setup as a pagan, but also because I like scented candles in general. I don't burn them for a great length of time, but I ordered these and they're from the same seller. Let's see if it says on the little packing slip what we've got going on here. So I ordered this from Etsy, and the shop is called Willow Moon Candle All Run Together. So it's Willow, the tree, moon, the lunar object, candle, .etsy.com. And I ordered 2 of these, came from, hey, New Jersey. Oh boy. Okay, so we're trying out, I ordered small ones. These were $7.95 each, and the biggest ones, so this is an 8 ounce. And then they had a 16 ounce and a 24 ounce. I think the 16 ounce was like 14 something, and the 32 ounce is like $24. They're like $25 a piece. It's like $24.99 or something like that. But we thought we would order some small ones just to see if we like the scent. These are soy candles, so we're trying to go more organic. So I ordered one for me and one for my son, and he likes lavender a lot. He burns it for the calming energy. So they come with the little lids. They're in these little plain mason jars. So we got French lavender for him. And then I got, what was my candle scent? Mine is cinnamon sticks, but it's a Halloween scent. So they put a fun little Halloween label on it. It's not Happy Halloween or Ouija is not the scent. This one is cinnamon sticks. And, ooh, nice spicy. Yeah, definitely. Smells like cinnamon. I'll trim that wick up and get it lit a little bit later. I don't particularly like floral scents, but I'll give this a smell. Just, this is the French lavender. That seems a little more subtle. Like, I could feel the burn of the cinnamon a little bit when I stuck my face in that one. I can smell the soy of the candle wax. But I don't necessarily smell lavender on this. We'll have to see when he lights it. Sometimes with the scent, you really don't smell it until it's burning. But I like the way mine smells just when I stick my face in the jar. So those are their smallest ones, and we're trying that out. If we like it, we'll order larger ones of more scents, you know, slowly over time, because $25 for one candle is quite a bit. Real quick, I'll grab the candle and show you the size that we were normally getting. So we were buying approximately this size, which is, let's see, 14 ounces. And you can see on the bottom, from Big Lots, and it was $5. But a lot of the scents when we got them, and this one is completely burned out. I haven't had a candle to burn for a little over a month, because August and September are our two tightest months in terms of budget, because the summer's coming to an end. Sometime in the next week to 2 weeks, we should start to see a serious decline in the temperature. But yeah, so I couldn't buy a lot of candles at that price. But if it's a good quality scent and it has a good burn time, I would definitely consider it. And I'm supporting somebody's small business by ordering from Etsy, even if it's a little more expensive. And if I take into consideration, if I just needed candles and I bought a $4 bus pass to go up to Big Lots to buy the $5 candle, you're looking at $9. Now, these two candles with shipping cost $23. I would save a little bit of money, but I'd be giving my money to Big Lots, and I would have the added inconvenience of having to go out in the heat of the day and ride the bus there and back with my purchases, which is sometimes not fun on the bus. Scottsdale Road bus is kind of an interesting mix. It's not as interesting as the Thomas Road bus, but there are some characters on there, especially in the middle of the day. But in buying from Etsy, I'm supporting independent small business, and I do like to do that where I can. I'm all for saving money, but I've been trying to get away from big box and small box stores for a while, and you can't totally get away from it because all retail businesses kind of run the same now. But for things like toilet paper, we're getting it from where my son works. It's $2 more, but that in paying that price, we're saving $2 because, you know, it costs $4 for the bus pass to get up there. There's no way that he could ride his bike that far up comfortably. It would be more than a 20-mile round trip just for toilet paper. And yes, we could kind of save it up until we needed a bunch of stuff, but then you have to still carry it home on the bike or the bus. This is sometimes where it sucks not having a car. Most things we can get to fairly easily. And maybe in the fall, I'll bunch things up and go get stuff at Big Lots. But I think now that I've made the switch with candles, I'll probably stick with that. So that is all I have. I'm excited to go light my candle. I love the little Halloween Ouija sticker on there. And I will report back and let you know how much I liked this candle lit and how it smelled like if I leave the house and I come back, that sort of thing. I hope you have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you as you're watching this. And if you watched to the end, thank you so much. I will be back tomorrow. Not if I'm back tomorrow, I'll be back tomorrow with another video. Bye.